First of all, I want to thank Councilman Malcolm Graham for providing breakfast this morning. Let's give him a hand for that. Thank you. This is what you call a lunch and learn, or I call it breakfast and learn. So good morning. Welcome to the Sarah Stevenson Tuesday Morning Forum. I'm Mary Johnson. I'm going to be facilitating. We have additional facilitators, all of which who are not here. Laura McCletty had a doctor's appointment this morning, but she'll be in later. We have Ms. Carlenia Avery, Jackie Edwards-Walton, Nathalie McCarran, who is our timekeeper. We have Winston Robinson, Steve Johnston. We have Shay Abdullah, Gary Young, and we have Mr. Thomas Moore, who is our musician. Okay, the forum runs, as you know, from 8:30 to 10. Right before 10, we'll pause for announcements from the audience. We always begin with a prayer, and we're going to ask Mr. Kuntz, would he come up here and give us a word? No.
Now, Mary, I'm gonna stop coming up if you can't address me properly.
He's a bishop or
Lock the doors. Good morning, everybody. It's a wonderful day in the neighborhood, and really it's a wonderful day wherever you are, even in the volcano. God is speaking. I hope y'all listening. But here in Charlotte, it's such a beautiful day and all these beautiful people. And prior to coming today, the thing came to my mind, what's the difference between sin and God's will? Sometimes, evil is allowed to operate in nature, but the ultimate control remains in the hands of God. So today, we're trusting the hands of God in spite of the sin and the evil in the world, as we'll hear more about later. So this morning, I'd just like for us to just take a moment to bow our heads for a quick word of prayer. Lord, thank you for this day. Soon we'll be done with the troubles of the world, and it will all be revealed by and by. But in the meanwhile, God, we ask that you would be with us, keep us, sustain us in peace, in comfort, and free from all evil. But sometimes evil just seems to get upon us. But we know the ultimate is to trust in you. So today, Lord, in all things, we trust in you, we glorify you, and we thank you for your goodness. Amen.
Okay, do we have any first timers here today? Anyone here for the first time? We're gonna let you introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Sheena. I heard about you guys by word of mouth, but I am interested. I am ABA therapist by day, so I work with autism population. I have my own LLC. It's called Friends Are Family. And Friends Are Family is just a business that does custom designs, logos, t-shirts, apparel, and stuff like that. And I just launched a new nonprofit called Directions to Discovery. And that nonprofit will service individuals of the autism spectrum to help develop independency and self-sufficiency.
Thank you so much.
Hello, I'm Tamara Green with Tepper Sports and Entertainment, and just fell in love with this book, and so happy to be here to support Councilman Graham and to see all of you. Thank you for having me.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Mary Jane Watkins. I'm here with Ms. Faith. I'm the advocacy intern at Habitat for Humanity of the Charlotte region. And I'm also a fourth-year pre-law student at UNC Chapel Hill. I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Leah White. I am here on behalf of Brisbane Academy Tutoring Center and Mentoring Services. I have a nonprofit working with the youth, and I am also running for city council.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else? Any other first timers?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Carlton Johnson, born and raised in Charlotte, North Carolina Central graduate. What brought me out, I've been online every time. Normally I'm traveling, I just happen to be in town this morning. And also happy the day to come to be able to check this book by Ms. Brown. And I'm also at the moment considering running for city council as well.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you for offering up your services. Okay, this morning we have none other than Councilman Malcolm Graham. And he is here to talk about his book, his life, all of the, this book tells a story. I have to tell you, I read this book. It is a must read. You have to read this book. My 14-year-old grandson, this is going to be his required reading this summer. I'm even going to go to my church and talk to our youth. Oh, please silence our phones. Please, right now, take your phone out and silence it. Okay? Don't be the one. Okay? So, thank you. Thank you. I'm going to talk to our youth minister about the teenagers at my church, the middle and high school students reading this book and even having a discussion. This book is so, it's intense. There's some good, happy moments. There's some sad moments. But the best thing is that when you get to near to the end of the book, it tells you what you can do. What can we do to make this world a better place? Which is what a lot of books don't do, you know. But it talks about that, and I think it's good. It's a good discussion point for children and adults alike. So we're going to let Councilman Graham have his presentation, and he's going to talk about his experience, what he went through. He's going to talk about the book. That's all I can say. He's going to talk about the book. And then we're going to follow up with questions, okay? So you can raise your hand, and we'll call on you in the order that you raise your hand, and we're going to ask questions about his life, about the book. We're not going to talk about city council and what's going on there. That's not what this is about today. This is about learning, okay? So, without further ado.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming this morning to be a part of this presentation. Breakfast is on me, so feel free to get something to eat. Very informal, very personable, very transparent. No questions are unfair or off-limit. I'm just here not as former state senator or city council member or congressional candidate. I'm here as Cynthia's little brother, Malcolm. Born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. I was one of 6, and my mother was a domestic worker. So if you saw the help, that's what my mom did. She cleaned white folks' home, Jewish families. That's what she did for a living. My father was a truck driver in Charleston. I'm 62 years old. And so I grew up in the late 70s, early 80s as a black tennis player in Charleston, right? A very good black tennis player in Charleston, where balls would be in and white players would call it out. And you just went on to the next point, right? Because you couldn't be the one causing the scene, right? Came to Charlotte on a tennis scholarship, Johnson C. Smith University, and Met my wife there, 34 years, father of two, now grandfather of two. Every morning, growing up on Sundays, my mom would yell real loud, "Cynthia, Jackie, Malcolm, Melvin, get up. We're going to church." That meant we were going to Emanuel. My mom sung in the choir, both services, the 7 o'clock service, Sunday schools at 9, the 11 o'clock service. We were there all morning, every Sunday for 18 years. When we got old enough to say, we ain't going anywhere. And we still went. She sung in the choir, and Emanuel is located at 110 Calhoun Street. This progressive African-American church, rich in history and tradition, fighting for equality throughout its history, burned down by the Klan, rebuilt, rebirthed on 110 Calhoun Street, John C. Calhoun. In modern times, he would be a white nationalist, a Klansman, certainly a racist. And that's Charleston, right? There's history everywhere you turn, this complicated history about race and equality. It's what kind of built the city, right? It's what the city was built on. And I made a pledge when I turned 18 years old, based on what I saw, how I was treated growing up, certainly how they treated my mom, that I'm not coming back. Racism, hatred, and discrimination is what let me out of Charleston. I gotta get out of here, right? But it was the same thing that brought me back. When June 17th occurred, 2015. So I'm a political creature, you guys know that. And my wife has one rule for me. Could you please do not turn on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, and the bedroom? Could you just knock it out? Could you give it a break? And so here I am, breaking the rules this night, June 15th, 17th, 10 years ago. Wasn't an extraordinary news day. I'm just breaking the rules. Breaking news. Shooting at Emanuel Church, 9 fair dead. So I called Cynthia. Cynthia is my touch point to all things Charleston. She's still a regular member of the church. She would, more than occasion, go to Bible study. She worked at the Charleston County Library. You can literally walk from the library to the church, 3 blocks at best. She also worked at night at the College of Charleston as a night librarian. You can literally walk from the College of Charleston to the church, walkable city. This lady did that for the last 18 years of her life. 7 o'clock in the morning, Charleston County Library. 6 o'clock in the evening, she's at the night librarian at the College of Charleston until about 11:30. So I called Cynthia. What the hell is happening in Charleston? She didn't pick up the phone. I said, okay, well, Cynthia's trying to figure it out herself, right? You know, she'll call me back. About 20 minutes went by and call her again. Something that's significant happening in Charleston, she would have called and said, hey, just checking in, everything's cool, I'm just trying to figure it out myself, right? She didn't call back. And I started getting this kind of sick feeling, just kind of uneasiness, because now I'm flipping channels, right? I'm looking at CNN and seeing the images of the church and the flashing lights of the police officers and the Fox News, MSNBC. The stories are getting more horrific by the moment. No sympathy. And then my niece calls and says, Uncle Malcolm, we can't find Aunt Cynthia. We think she went to Bible study. And then all my fears were kind of confirmed internally that she's right in the middle of it, just not in the way that I wanted her to be. And I immediately tried to fix stuff from Charlotte, right? So was she at the church? I need to know what's going on in Charleston. I tried to reach my brother, I couldn't reach him. Tried to reach cousins in Charleston, couldn't reach anyone. So I called Rodney Monroe. Rodney Monroe was the police chief of Charlotte at that time. I said, Rodney, could you please find out what's happening in Charleston for me? I think my sister may be involved. And he said, Malcolm, I know there's 1,000 things happening down there right now. Let me see what I can find out for you. 2 minutes later, Steve Crump calls, former reporter at WBTV. Steve knows that I'm from Charleston. He knows Harvey Gant is from Charleston. A good friend of mine, Irving Bourdin, that works at Discovery Place, he's from Charleston. So he was calling around trying to get reactions about what was happening in Charleston, not knowing that my sister was right in the middle of it at the time. Rodney Monroe calls back. Malcolm, there were 4 survivors of the shooting. They had identified Cynthia as being at the church at the time of the shooting. Didn't confirm whether she was alive, didn't confirm that she was dead or she was shot, confirmed that who was in the church and identified that Cynthia was there. Later that night, 10, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, no return call from Cynthia. An 803 number popped up on the phone, Charleston County. I answered it. Senator Graham, how are you doing? This is the Charleston County coroner. We're doing an investigation. Where does your sister live? What does she look like? What type of car does she drive? Did you talk to her this day? And then you just start getting this sick feeling. And I got selfish because at that point there was one survivor who was shot that went to the hospital. And the selfishness of me is, oh God, please make it be Cynthia. Which meant that someone else would have been dead. He eventually died himself, Spanish sentence. So all the survivors were accounted for. Cynthia was not. It was Bible study. Something we all do on Wednesday night. The Bible study actually was late that day. It started around 9 o'clock because they were preparing for the church conference. Bible study generally starts at 6. And because we had almost 80 people in the church. And as the general conference meeting ran over, Myra Thompson, who was killed, was supposed to teach Bible study that night. She just got her license to preach. So that was her big night to teach Bible study. And they said, okay, we'll just hang around because Myra's getting on everybody's nerve about trying to do her trial sermon at Bible study. So we'll just hang around to allow her to do that. So it was a small group. A white boy came in, funny haircut. Looks like he's a student at the College of Charleston. Literally, you can walk from the College of Charleston to the church. Asked could he sit with them for Bible study. They said he could. He sat with them for an hour. They prayed, they worshiped. Myra gave her presentation. Bible study was coming to an end. The benediction was being read. Eyes were closed, heads were bowed, and he shot 77 times. The entire senior ministerial staff of the church, including Reverend Singleton, who I knew, because not only was he the senior pastor of the church, he was a state senator in South Carolina. So we would talk politics, South Carolina politics. I was a senator in North Carolina. I would go home, I would go to church, I would see him, knew him very well. Shot dead. Susie Jackson, Ethel Lance, Payne Militant, Sharonda Singleton was Cynthia's best friend, so I knew Sharonda really well as well, right? I would see her all the time. Reverend Simmons, and Cynthia. 9 were killed. Before were terrorized. Felicia Saunders survived the shooting. Her grandkids survived the shooting in that room. She was on top of her. Nearly squeezed her to death. Felicia Saunders watched her son die because he was shot and killed. Reverend Pinckney's wife and kids were in his office, similar to just being back there, hiding underneath his desk. His 2 kids, his wife. Polly Shepard survived the shooting. Polly's about 84 years old. And talked to Dylan Ruth, this kid. And Dylan Ruth asked her, "Have I shot you yet?" In a trembling voice, she said no. And he said, "Good, because I want you to go tell everybody what I just did." And what he did was killed 9 individuals, terrorized 5 others. And Cynthia would have said this was really not an attack on them who were there. It was an attack on a race of people. Because it didn't matter who they were. The only thing that mattered was that they were Black and that they were there. The book, The Way Forward, really doesn't talk about how they died, right? We know how they died. It really gives the reader an opportunity to walk in my shoes each and every day from the moment I found out that Cynthia was shot and killed. It's an easy read. It's about 185 pages, 17 chapters, 25 pictures. It gives a perspective about, again, my experience during that whole time. It teaches a little history along the way about Charleston. But it talks mainly about, okay, how do we move forward? What's the way forward for our nation, our community, and our culture? What's the way forward for a race of people? Now, I had a lot of interesting experience because this killing, and it took me years to say that Cynthia was killed because she didn't die, right? When she was killed, she was healthy. She was getting ready to celebrate her 55th birthday, 4 days. She was born June 21st. She died June 17th. So we were talking about her 55th birthday. My other sister, Jackie, was just recently diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer. So we were talking about how we're going to handle Jackie and her treatments and just kind of making sure she was okay. And our last conversation, she was driving from Charleston, dropping her car in Charlotte, and we were take the drive to visit Jackie in Virginia. We were doing family stuff, so she didn't die, she was killed, right? And that opened up a wide variety of challenges, and I'll share a couple with you. One is families. Now, my family's not perfect. Your family's not perfect either. Every family got their own little issues, right? And Cynthia was a fixer. I mean, she loved gadgets, and she's those home TV shows, fixing the house. That was her. She met a man later in her life and eventually got married to him and thought she could fix him too. That didn't work out for anybody. Not even her. Because he stole from her in life, and then he stole from her in death. 3 days after the shooting, there was an emergency meeting at the Charleston County Council meeting. They were going to rename the library after Cynthia. This is 3 days after the shooting. The room is packed of people. CNN, Wall Street Journal, Los Angeles Times, every media outlet you can think about was in this county council meeting. This meeting occurred a day after we confronted her husband about producing her will, so we can make sure that we prepare her homecoming in a way upon her wishes. What did she want? What did she desire? We all knew she had a will. I can't find the will. We tore it up. Looked in the safe, it was gone. No. This lady was dot I's, cross T's, encouraged me to get a will, encouraged all the family members to get a will. She was just that type of person. The house that she lived in was the house that we were born and raised in, right? So that house was in our family for like 60 years, just like Emanuel was in our family for some 50 years. It's going to be passed on to other family members at something after this, and that we talked about those things, so we knew that thing existed. Where she kept it, why she had to say it, because he was stealing from the house. So she had to lock up her valuables in the safe to make sure that it didn't find its way to the pawn shop. What was gone? So we're at this meeting, county council meeting, and the library and the county council wanted to change the name to the Cynthia Graham Hurd St. Andrews Regional Library. He gets up and says, hey, I want to make an amendment to the resolution. I want to change it to the Cynthia Hurd St. Andrews Regional Library. County council members are looking in horror. Library folks are incensed. If you see the picture in the book, picture's worth 1,000 words. My family members were ready to literally kill this dude. And we couldn't be the family in the international spotlight arguing about such a petty issue 3 days after the worst hate crime in American history. So I said, let it happen. Let it happen. And they did. The library refused to put the name on the building for well over a year. And then one afternoon, Al, the political figures in here, we got with the county council about a year later and slipped into the consent agenda, so I know we could do that, to change it back from the Cynthia Hurd St. Andrews Regional Library to the Cynthia Graham Hurd St. Andrews Regional Library. And then the library put the sign up. Then they had the celebration. And now the library stands 10 years later as the Cynthia Graham St. Andrews Regional Library. Not only was she honored that way, she was always honored by the College of Charleston. Their highest academic scholarship was known as the Cynthia Graham Hurd Memorial Scholarship, highest academic scholarship there. An anonymous donor donated a little bit, $250,000 to the University of South Carolina, where she got her master's in library science from, to award scholarships to African Americans who are interested in getting a master's in information technology, library science. The Congressional Black Caucus gave her the Phoenix Award in her death. Johnson C. Smith gave her the Arc of Triumph Award in her death. I can go on and on and on, all the national and regional recognition that they gave, not because she died, but because how she lived and the things that she really cared about, which was literacy and reading and civic engagement. She was not an elected official. She chaired the Charleston County Housing Authority. There's Habitat. She chaired the Housing Authority, cared about gentrification and affordable housing, an advocate for that. And so she was really a leader in that community. Fast forward, so family issues was really issue, and that continues to this day, right? Just dealing with family. I had not spoken to my brother-in-law. The last time I spoke with him was the day of Cynthia's funeral, 10 years ago. There's really nothing left to say. I talked to every lawyer in the city that said, we're not gonna take your case, you've been hurt enough, we're not gonna take your money. If you cannot produce a will, right? Obama, our family had the opportunity to meet with Obama and Michelle right after he sung Amazing Grace for the funeral for Reverend Pinckney. And he was in town all day and gave 9 families an hour each, all day. We couldn't get Joe Biden off the phone. I said, Joe, I gotta go, right? Because Joe was talking and talking. He talked about 2 or 3 times this week when he was vice president. Just checking on you now, what's going on down there? I'll be there with Obama. I mean, he just lost his son, Bo. So he was talking about Bo, I was talking about Cynthia, and it's like, I never thought I would tell the vice president, I gotta go. I got stuff to do. Very kind, very generous. And the thing about Obama, everyone knew I ran for Congress, fell short. Cynthia worked in that campaign with me, all my campaigns. And she said, I'm not working to get you elected to Congress because I want to see your Congress member. Well, that would be nice, but I want to meet the president. And the best way for me to meet the president is for you to win a congressional seat. I think you might can make that happen. We lost that campaign. She lost that opportunity, but she did meet him in death. When he sung Amazing Grace and he called everyone's name and said, Cynthia Graham Hurd found that grace. And he spent an hour with us, and I was just amazed how much he knew about her. It was evident that he did some work and research. He knew about her. He knew what she liked. He knew that she loved to plant flowers, and she knew that she liked to read, and she knew that she had home improvement. He knew all those things. And then I broke it to him gently. I said, well, I told him the same story, how she wanted to meet him. And I said, well, to be honest, sir, she really was more interested in meeting Michelle than you. And he said, well, I did that all the time. The Confederate flag came down. Bree Newsom really, literally, figuratively took the damn thing down. Y'all know Bree Newsom? She went out to the flagpole, pulled it down. She did that on the day of Cynthia's homegoing service. And I called her and I said, if I knew you were going to do that, I would go with you, right? Activist, very progressive. But I worked with Nikki Haley and worked with others. There's a picture of me in the book at the signing when the flag came down. Spent 2-3 weeks up there working with the General Assembly, trying to bring the flag down. Eventually got down. Nikki Haley said all the right things for 6 weeks. And then after all was over, she started running for president, and she said, you know, I wrote her a letter. I said, but for Dylan Roof, the flag would still be flying today because the flag is such a great thing. If he didn't spoil it for everybody, it would still be flying. And I wrote her a letter. She didn't respond. So you need to pick a side and stay consistent. Either the thing needed to come down because there was nothing ever good about the Confederate flag, right? And so dealt with her, dealt with Tim Scott. Oh, we're going to do something about gun legislation. Never happened. Charleston loophole never got passed. South Carolina still doesn't have any hate laws, crimes on the books, right? Nothing happened except 6 years later in Buffalo, the same thing happened again. Where a white nationalist went to a black neighborhood, went to a black grocery store, and shot and killed 10 people, and had the name Dylan Roof inscribed in the gun that he used. The trial, he was convicted by a jury of his peers. I attended every day for about 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks of trial. I drove literally day trips. I would leave in the morning, 5, go to trial, spend all day, drive back that night, because not only did I need to take care of my family in Charleston, I needed to take care of my family in Charlotte. My wife, who was impacted, my kids, their aunt, who was impacted. Anyone who knows Malcolm, not Senator Graham, Councilmember Graham, my good neighbor right here, Curtis Carroll, those folks who know Malcolm knew Cynthia, right? Because Cynthia was always around, always at the house, right? Always at the Colts basketball game, always around, right? So if you knew Malcolm, you knew Cynthia. If you campaigned with me over the years, she was at the polls. I mean, she was present. And so the book kind of talks about all of those things, right? Then it talks about how do we move forward. I'll let you read the book. I'm gonna tell all of it, but just give you a sense of it. We'll take some questions. How do we move forward? How do we create an environment where healthy tension can exist, right? I did not forgive then. I do not forgive today. I was driving from Charleston back to Charlotte for an extended stay in Charleston. So I went home, assessed what was going on, just horrific. I gotta go back to Charleston from Charlotte, get a change of clothes for a longer stay, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? And so I missed the bond hearing. But I was listening to it on the radio. And the first thing that struck me was how so Charleston it was, right? Because the white judge opened up the bond hearing and talked about how bad things were for everybody, and spent 20 minutes talking about how bad things were for the killer's family too. You got a room full of black folks who just lost their relatives, you know, the whole 9 yards, right? Sitting there listening to this white judge lecture them that, yeah, we need to be concerned about y'all, but these folks have suffered too, and they're going through hell too, and blah, blah. It's just so Charleston, right? The thinly veiled racism, right? Just thinly veiled. And then one of the family members, when he gave them out, he got this bench and kicked off the bench for that, for sure, it happened. And then family members, when he gave them opportunity to talk, said they forgave him. I'm driving back to Charlotte. I nearly wrecked the damn car. Cynthia was still in the morgue on a steel table, dead. And 2 days after the most horrific hate crime in our country's history, people were forgiving him. I wasn't thinking about him. I was thinking about my friends who were killed, my sister who was killed, my family that was impacted, the community of Charleston, which I love, that whose past became its present. History of racism, discrimination. How could you forgive centuries of hatred, racism, discrimination in 48 hours. I just couldn't do it. I wanted to create healthy tension. And that doesn't mean I was going down to Charleston, was going to burn down the market or riot. No, we were going to ask some tough questions and allow people to sit in the discomfort of the conversation and the answers. We needed to do that, right? And maybe if we had done that then, Buffalo may have not happened because we took the time to unpeel what was happening there, right? And so I didn't then, he did not ask for forgiveness. He said in trial he would do it again given the opportunity. He represented himself in trial so he could do a better job than his lawyers. And in fact, when I was called to the stand to be a character witness for my sister because the prosecutor said we're not going to let her husband do that because he's just a mess, right? Dylan Roof could have cross-examined me because he was representing himself. He chose not to. I wish that he did. He just sat there and gave his speech. I'll do it again. They're breaking our women. They're taking our jobs. I had to do it. Someone had to do it. The book talks about moving forward, though. And I hope that you will take the time to read it and digest it and just ask some tough questions and create some tension along the way, especially in this current environment where people don't want to teach Black history anymore because it may make some white kids uncomfortable, or DEI is a code word for Black, and I see Black excellence, and I don't see any white excellence in the Justice Department, or the Defense Department, or in his Communications Department. I don't see anything of that, right? And what Dr. King said, and I'll close on this, when he gave the eulogy at the 16th Avenue Baptist Church for the 4 little girls that were killed by the Klansmen in the bombing, said, pay little attention to the killer and more attention to the system that produced the killer. And in current times, we need to fight systems because it's a one-off, maybe a two-off, but if someone walks into a church or a grocery store and kill unarmed African Americans, I call it public executions. But every day through systems, people of brown and Black folks are being slowly but surely poisoned and hopefully poisoned to death through systems, the education system, the healthcare system, the criminal justice system, housing, jobs. Someone goes to Johnson C. Smith, 3.8, all the accolades, Shamika Johnson, Sarah Johnson at UNC Charlotte, 3.8, all the accolades. Sarah gets job offers, opportunities. Shamika can't even get an appointment for an interview. Systems. Took us 10, 15 years to pass Medicaid expansion. 600,000 poor people, many Black and brown, with no health care. And it was right there for them to get. Artificial barriers that prevent people from voting. Get zip code, get PTA, get Booster Club, great teachers, wrong zip code, struggling for Booster Club money, teachers don't want to teach there, labs to be fixed. Taking money from public schools, giving it to charter schools, systems. Let's focus on creating some healthy tension within systems and try to find how do we move forward. Thank you. What's still available for sale? Shameless plug. $20. I didn't bring mine, whatever. So I only can take cash. But you can get it off Amazon or Barnes & Noble online, or you can go to the Parkwood Shopping Center bookstore and get it there. Thank you, everybody.
Boy, I was almost in tears there. Okay. Wasn't that amazing? That was amazing. Okay, we have our first question right here. Oh, and also I need to remind everyone that we have 30 seconds to ask our question without a lot of commentary. So make sure you get to the question within that 30 seconds and you can answer. We're gonna try to take as many as we can.
Because I have to be at a groundbreaking in 10, so I told them I was gonna be a little late though. So.
Okay, so maybe a minute or so, okay.
Good morning, and thanks very much for being here. I really appreciate the book and your story. My question is more about community and how they supported you afterwards. I believe you got involved with her children, and could you tell us a little bit about how community coaches, others help support you, that others may know this?
It's amazing, right? So I like Charleston. I love Charlotte. And when it happened, I just, God bless Dad, District Russell came to the house the other day to interview me, and I have 4 tubs of cards and letters, and that, it's probably close to about 6,000, many of which we weren't able to open. But when I was writing the book, I took the time and opened all of them. Found some money out, some of these things that weren't open. People were saying money. So when I found the first 100, I could open all of these. Whether I went to the bank, the grocery store, a Panthers game, a Hornets game, to church, tennis courts, everyone in this community has embraced me. Then and continues to do so today. I'm thinking about you. I love you. Hugs. Every day for the last 10 years I talk about Cynthia because at some point in time someone brings it up. So while she's no longer physically with us, I talk about her every day in the most positive way. And we don't focus on how she died. That's, we get it. But how she lived and who she was, and this community of Charlotte has really, really embraced me. Curtis Carroll's right there, guy in blue suit, my neighbor, next door neighbor for 34 years. People like Curtis was there, right? Curtis knows that I love flowers. My next door neighbor, Ralph and Cynthia, watered the flowers for me for months. Right, when I was going back and forth, I got all these flowers all over the house. I just love it. Got it from Cynthia gardening, container gardening, and I just love it. But people were so kind to me. And it wasn't about who I was, right? Because people understood their humanity and the senselessness of it all, right? And the fact that, we stood up, right? Our family, not the fact that everyone's faith walk is different, but everyone didn't forgive, and a lot of people wanted some healthy tension, wanted some conversations. But this community, man, has embraced me and continues to do so each and every day by just saying, hey, I get it, I understand, and we still love it.
Good morning. I got the next question. Fellow South Carolinian here, also we work in Charlotte. My mama actually, I worked with Brie at the time. She actually said she was gonna do it. I didn't believe her. My mama thought I was with her, like, I know you're not with her. Anyway, also fellow Smith out here. We were actually at Smith around the same time. But I'm curious if your paths ever crossed. I'm trying to remember her last name, but Grayson.
Yeah.
Her mother actually was also murdered in that, in that situation. And that was a really trying time for Smithites as well. So I'm wondering, did you talk about that in your story? And did you all's paths ever cross?
Yeah, so Charlotte was really impacted by the shooting. A lot of people think it was just me and my sister, but Grayson Doctor at the time of the shooting was a student at Johnson C. Smith. Her sister was a student at Johnson and Wales. Their mother was killed in the shooting as well. Risher, Ethel Lance, all her family lives in Charlotte. And so Charlotte was uniquely impacted by the shooting. This Dr. Cynthia, Ethel Lance, in a way that was uniquely different. Charlotte has a large Charleston population of folks who have relocated here. We used to have the big Charleston cookout every year, and literally about 700 people in the park, red rice, hoppin' john, lemon beans, grilling, cooking, and so, there you go. I talk to her often. She's now in Florida at the University of Florida. She got her master's in communication. She used to work for WFAE. Now she's working at a radio station in Florida, doing extremely well, extremely strong.
Same class.
Yeah, extremely strong woman, young lady, and has herself focused on how her mom lived versus how she died, and was able to utilize that to support herself, her sister, and others. And so she's doing great. Thanks for the question.
The JCSU connection and your sister's experience and background in library, has our alma mater created any form of remembrance or honor of her in our particular library, whether it's set aside of a section or any kind of historic reference?
Yeah, Johnson C. Smith, under the leadership of Dr. Carter, gave every member and invited every member of each family to Charlotte for the Arc of Triumph and presented each family the Arc of Triumph Award that year. And so they honored us. They shared our Charleston story. They were really, really kind and supportive, simply because, again, that Charleston connection. I was a Smith former employee over there. Grayson Doctor was a student. So they honor us that way, not specifically the library. Cynthia graduated from Clark Atlanta University in Atlanta, Georgia. Their library has a whole corner that talks about her legacy and her contribution. There's an endowed scholarship at Clark Atlanta that was established under Cynthia's name. She pledged AKA at Clark Atlanta, and there's a fellowship through their sorority that awards scholarships there. And so, again, Cynthia used to say that I was the most famous person in the family because I had a measure of success, right? But in her death, there's no doubt that my sister is the most famous person in the family, and we're proud of her, and we're proud of her legacy, and we support the work through the foundation. We established the Cynthia Graham Hurd Foundation for Literacy, Reading, and Civic Engagement. No, it's a family foundation.
My question was going to center around the name of your book, Way Forward, and where we are currently. You touched on that, you spoke on systems. So I guess my question shifts to, in your capacity as an author of this type of book, as a council member and a former senator, how do you feel we change or inflict change on these systems that you alluded to, in which, especially with where we are right now?
We got to create healthy tension. We simply cannot think it's okay for us not to talk about Black history. We just cannot do that. We cannot think it's okay for individuals to question Black excellence. Like somehow DEI is going to give unqualified people an opportunity. No, we're it was established because it was unqualified white people, white men in particular, getting opportunities, right? And so we got to fight the power. We got to create healthy tension. We got to do something we said in this room for years and years and years. That we would just vote out numbers. If we would just vote out numbers, then we can really have the type of progressive country that we want. One of the things that's no denial, the demographics of the country is changing and has changed, right? The country's getting more black and brown. There's nothing you can do. You can't export enough black and brown people out of the country. And at the same time, you're trying to import white Afrikaners, right? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense, right? So we have to embrace our diversity, embrace our identity. We have to challenge some of these institutions that are taking 3 or 4 steps backwards because they are afraid. Our banks, our university systems, our hospitals. We got to challenge those systems that we pay currency in, right? No, we're going to support diversity, or we're going to take currency out. And it has to be in an organized fashion. It has to begin where every large majority of black folks are every Sunday morning. And where's that? Church. Let's talk about Jesus on the first Sunday, the second Sunday, on the third Sunday, and those fourth Sunday, let's talk about community empowerment with Jesus in mind, right? And let's bring resources into the church and teach people and educate people and work together, Baptists and AME. And if we do not do that, then, someone might drive up on you with a mask over their face and say, Al, we don't like black guys with pocket squares, so you gotta go.
Okay, my question, Ken began this session with prayer. He talked about what's the difference between God's will and sin. Within God's will is forgiveness. And I think a part of moving forward is forgiving. My question is, you mentioned that when it first happened, a couple of days later, it was challenging and difficult to forgive. Where are you now in that process of moving forward with forgiveness as the tool?
Well, God's going to have to forgive me. I just don't, right? I love my blackness. And I'm not going to allow anybody to take it away from me. I'm just not. And what he tried to do that night, as I said earlier, it was not about who was there. It could have been you. My wife, Kim, works for a bank, and she often goes to Charleston. And since it was alive, and she would often go to Bible study with Cynthia. If she was an overnight stay, right? She could have been there. It didn't matter. I'm not going to allow for anyone to think it's okay to extinguish me, which means to extinguish you. Just not going to do it. I can't forget that.
Okay. Good morning. Councilman Graham, I want to thank you for sharing your experience, strength, your hope for the future, showing up as Cynthia's little brother. I also want to thank you for your leadership in this community. There is such a tendency to forget. America has a very short memory. I am afraid that the death of your sister will join the thousands of others whose names we can't remember, whose trauma we have tried to resolve. There are 2 names that I would like to speak, and then I'll ask my question. That is the name of Joe McNeely and Willie McDaniel, who are the first and only recorded lynchings here in Charlotte-Mecklenburg. As thousands of people have lost their lives, as blood is in the soil all over this nation, how do we remember this trauma so that it doesn't occur and reoccur and reoccur?
That's a great question, and thank you too for your leadership. So, do what I'm doing right now. This is the first of 19 events that I'll be doing over the next 31 days. in Charleston next week. We have a national town hall meeting. The foundation, the Cynthia Graham Hurd Foundation, with Kari Sellers and the president of the International Museum in Charleston and Charleston County Council. We will not allow this to forgive and forget, right? And so we're going to create a level of healthy tension. Every time I go into a room in Charleston, and the mayors there or some other public officials, and they say, Lord, and I said, no, I come in peace, but I come in truth, right? Let's speak some plain truth and create some of the systems and balance that's occurring in Charleston. What you gotta do is you gotta tell the truth, you gotta do it over and over and over again, and we all have to be relentless about our history. And we don't have to wait for someone else to say that it's okay to teach our history, right? We can teach our history. That fourth Sunday, when we talk about Jesus for the first, second, and third Sunday, that fourth Sunday can be a history lesson. That fourth Sunday can be a community empowerment session. That fourth Sunday can, how do we support minority business owners, right? How do we support our communities, right? And so I just think we continue to tell the story, write books, focus on our educational system about history. Really, really, really now we need to lean in to our historically Black college and university as a laboratory for this history and a convener of truth-telling.
Okay, Dr. Carroll.
So Malcolm. Malcolm?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So one of the things I'm doing now is I'm training principals, high school, middle, elementary. And one of the things that has been beneficial with your speech, your talk today, is healthy tension. I'm right with you on positive disagreement or conflict where individuals hold different perspectives. What I need you to do is come talk to my principals about how do you do that when you have different goals. Because healthy tension is fine, but we all have different goals. We may have different perspectives. So how do you bridge that from the tension to all of us having the same goal, which is very difficult when we have the same issues in healthcare, education, housing?
That's a very good question. I answer it two ways. From your perspective as an educator and my perspective about getting white folks, black folks, rich folks, poor folks, young folks, old folks to respect everyone's humanity, right? That we're all in this together. And that I think this tension is about creating a better community, right? Where everyone's lived up to the creeds and the Constitution. All men are created equal, right? We've been saying that for centuries, right? And so that's what this healthy tension that I'm trying to cause to do is to make sure that everyone understands their humanity, that we're all in this together, and that our greatest strength as a country, as a community, is all us moving in the same direction. Now, we don't have to move in the same direction at the same pace, because some people get still a lot longer. Some people are already to that forgiveness train, right? And I hadn't even bought a ticket yet, right? And so, but I'm trying. I see it, but I just can't feel it, right? And so it's just making sure that we all kind of move together from an educational perspective. Again, the goal is to get that boy or girl to move from high school to college, high school to career readiness, high school to community college, right? And so that should be the goal, right? That everyone can say, okay, despite the differences we may have, the end goal is to graduate that kid to a job, to employment, to our armed force, which is a noble career, or self-sufficiency, right? And so if we can agree that there's common things that we agree upon, and then put aside those things that we can't fix, that we can agree on these step 1, 2, and 3, let's focus and march towards accepting steps 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Thank you so much for coming today, Malcolm. With the numbers of persons being reduced attending church and attending college, you know, we are very much of late into Panhellenic councils, and many of our folks, when you say vote our numbers, don't go to college, don't even know what the fraternities and sororities are when we mention them. How can we then vote our numbers when we're talking about those kinds of differences? Folks not going to church, folks not going to college. How do we get those folks engaged?
I'm pretty straightforward. Kim said, the older I get, the more unstructured I am.
Welcome to the crowd.
Yeah. And it's simple. And I tell a lot of young folks, you know, when my daughters come home and all their friends come to the house and we have these conversations, you know, vote or die. Vote or die, right? It's hard to hear that, right? And so I love to see all my Greek brothers and sisters on social media when they're going over, everybody's strolling and stuff, and I love all that kind of stuff, right? I would like to see a corresponding picture of them doing some community service work, right? You can still stump the yard, and I'm Catholic, I've been there, done that. But it's what we say at the foundation is keep the faith, do the work. Right, so we gotta do the work, and it's hard work, it's messy work, it's necessary work, right? And we have to engage this new generation of people, and even just older folks too. There's some older folks that just don't vote, which I don't get, right? So we have to meet people where they are, whether it's at a church or at a library or at a community meeting like this, or at our rectorate when you go out and have your little dinner parties, when no one wants to talk about tension, that you kind of act a crazy, someone says something that's kind of off, you gotta nip that in the bud, right? Right there and then. I've lost so many friends over Trump, right? My opera friends, right? They're tennis guys, white guys I play tennis with, right? And there's no such thing as being a little bit racist. Well, he's just a little bit, it's like being a little bit pregnant, right? Either you are or you aren't, right? And so no, right? And so I just think, Jackie, we just got to, wherever this new generation of people, this is not young folks, new generation of people are, we got to find out where they are and explain to them the consequences of not being engaged, not being involved, not exercising rights. If you don't exercise the rights, someone will say, well, you don't need them because you're not using them, and take them away. So we got to be really diligent about that. And I always go back to the church because that's where it all starts from, right? You know, on Beatty's Fort Road, for example, every Sunday morning, that quarter is the most prosperous quarter in Mecklenburg County. From 8 o'clock in the morning to about 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday mornings. Those who are present and those who are doing it online. And then after 2 o'clock, it disperses all throughout the county. And that quarter down that was just hours ago, healthy, strong, economically viable, because all those folks from all over the county came to Friendship, or the House of Prayer, or First Baptist West, or the Park Ministries, all the other little churches up and down Davis Ford Road, the Educational Institution of Johnson C. Smith Education. Everything's on that quarter Sunday morning from 8 to 2, then it disperses. We got to find a way to capture that audience and utilize them to help us spread the word, the message, the work that has to be done.
Okay, Shamara.
Okay, really quickly. I had the opportunity to visit the church. It was a Black ministers retreat with the Disciples of Christ, which is Bishop Barber's denomination, I believe. And what was really profound during that trip was how they connected the very racist history of Charleston, South Carolina, to the church. That church had been a refuge. A long time, they fought very hard to even have a black church there. And so it made it 10 times hard for me to think about what that man did in that church. I do want to ask you this, and this is a good time for you to plug us all here. How do we support you with this book and this message that you have?
Good question. You guys have been supporting me for the last 10 years. In reference to what has occurred in Charleston, and been a really good support system. Politically, you've been supporting me all my career, right? When I was the executive director of a nonprofit organization, just right out of Smith, right? And so this community has embraced me, has embraced my family, has embraced my story. And I just say thank you. I just really say thank you. And even on the political stuff, sometimes we agree that we disagree, but again, I'm just a truth teller, right? I tell people what they need to know versus what they want to hear, right? And that way I can walk in any room throughout the city and be consistent, right? And some people like that, some people don't, but I think people respect that, right? And so I just say thank you. Thank you to the Tuesday Morning Breakfast Club and Ken, and who I've known for years, Ms. Ivory, Nancy, known for years, Curtis, Representative Alexander, Jackie, I can go on and on. People who have just said, hey, you're okay, Malcolm. And it's not Councilmember Graham or Senator Graham, it's just Malcolm. And the title that I enjoy the most in this community is it's just husband and father and grandfather and friend. Thank you.
Councilmember, just a quick question. Can you share with us what you found out about yourself during this process? I mean, how did you get your children through this? I mean, how did you talk to your children through this?
Well, that was the toughest part. My Cynthia didn't have any kids, and so my kids were her kids. Cynthia would, book airline tickets for Courtney and Nicole, fly them to Charleston for a day for shopping, and then fly them back, right? So they were extremely close. Curtis, my youngest daughter, was a basketball player. I think Cynthia probably attended as many games as I did, and really didn't care about, she was really good. Points per game, or number of rebounds or assists. She only cared about GPA. I said, that's the stat that matters the most to me. What's your GPA?
She's a good basketball player, though, y'all.
and so, the kids take it hard, and they still do. They still do, especially the youngest one, Nicole, right? Nicole went to her master's at Clark Atlanta because Cynthia went there. She just graduated undergraduate degree. She had a year of eligibility left. And they found out that not only was she a basketball player, but she was a good basketball player and paid her way through her master's program. Last year of eligibility at Clark Atlanta, made her a graduate assistant, and paid all her tuition fees for her. In honor of Cynthia, right? And then when she retired, she wore number 22. She retired that night with the number 9. Kids still take it hard, right? We all focus on the work of the foundation, and that's how Cynthia lived. And so it's just day by day, right? And it's 10 years later, but it'll feel like it just happened yesterday, right? And so we kind of focus on the work, right? Just like I said, we'll be in Charleston at the Mother Emanuel next week doing the work, talking about how do we move forward, creating strategies, etc. So I'm gonna have to
I know you got that.
kind of, because I got a groundbreaking. Speaking of work, I go to work.
Okay, let's give him a big
Amazon, Barnes and Nobles at the Park Shopping Center. And if you got $20, you can get it really quick, like in the next 2 minutes from me right now.
What's our strategy expense in September?
Yeah, so in September 11th, President Kenlock, who's from Charleston, Harvey Gant, who's from Charleston, and of course, I will be there. We'll be doing another book talk at the university, community-wide, bring a whole lot of Charleston folks in there. It's gonna be a really, really nice program. September 11th, and I think I'm doing like 6 other HBCUs in the fall once school opens up again.
This has been awesome. I mean, this has been, you've had us on the whole time. Thank you so much. And I do encourage everyone, please read this book. Please buy one, read it, pass it along. Give it to a young person to read. They need to hear this. Thank you so much for coming. And we're going to take announcements now. Please don't leave. Y'all don't walk out. Don't leave. Let's take announcements before we leave. I know he's got to leave, but let's take announcements. Okay. Announcement. Yes, Shamari.
I got a flyer here.
I got a flyer here. We're hosting an event to save public schools related to the community schools model. You can take this, scan the QR code. It'll be on Monday, June 9th at Caldwell Presbyterian, 6 to 8. It'll be interactive. We have a very, very, very brief panel. The rest of it you're going to really enjoy. Here's the flyer here.
Okay, I have an announcement also. I know we have other announcements, but I have one. Get to know your elected officials town hall. This is going to be really, really important. It's also going to be on June the 12th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. at Trinity Episcopal School. In attendance will be City Council at-large representatives. So this is your chance to come, hear questions, ask questions and hear plans for Charlotte. That's on June the 12th at Trinity Episcopal School from 6 to 7:30. And it's sponsored by Alpha Lambda Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to announce that on this coming Thursday, June 5th, the Greater Charlotte Apartment Association will be having a job fair from 1 to 6, South Boulevard Library. So with all of these apartments going up, they need folk to fill positions. They are looking for folk. And you can get reductions of rent, some of the positions. So this coming Thursday, June 5th, South Boulevard Library, 1 to 6 p.m. Thank you so much.
All right, good morning. Many of you know that I am the head JV basketball coach at Harding University High School, also the varsity coach. But as Councilman Graham alluded to, there is a real discrepancy when we talk about the athletic funding at these schools, not from the district, but from the support from the communities and the businesses. We are doing a fundraiser for our basketball team through our booster club, so if you are interested in supporting a group of young men, many of you I have met in this room, please come and see me and we would humbly appreciate your support. Thank you.
So I just want to invite everybody back next Tuesday to the forum. The president of my firm, Karen Jenkins, who's the president and CEO of KRJ Consulting, will be here. She is a motivational speaker. She's an author and a great one. So I invite you back. We're sponsoring breakfast at 7:30, and she speaks today at 8:30. Right? So invite everybody to come back. I think you will be inspired. Thank you.
Yes, there is breakfast next Tuesday at 7:30. That's called our networking time. This is a chance for you to come and network. Okay, Ken, did you have?
I just want to remind everybody that Juneteenth celebration is coming up, and I encourage you to monitor your local media, especially black media, in terms of what all is going to be happening. Juneteenth is sponsored by For the Struggle in collaboration with Archive Culture.
Okay, any other announcements, Ms. Jackson?
I wanted also related to Juneteenth, the grandfather of them all at Central Avenue, Thomas Avenue, 29 years, Juneteenth. That's going to be June 12th through the 15th. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Thank you all and have a wonderful day.
That's funny.